Near the town of Capalbio there is the so-called Tarot Garden. Here you can see many monumental sculptures inspired by tarot cards. In this video we will try to explain the esoteric value of these sculptures. The tarot cards consist of 56 playing cards, the so-called Minor Arcana, and another 22 trump cards, the so-called Major Arcana. These Major Arcana come from the Egyptian mythology, and they were the pages of a divine book that served to predict the future. By Moses, these cards entered into Hebrew culture and became part of the Jewish Kabbalah. Tarot cards came to Europe thanks to Egyptian Mamluks, and their use in foretelling future began in the 17th century. Of course, future predictions by tarot cards have no prophecy value because they are based on the chance of the drawn card. However, the Tarot Garden's artist Niki de Saint-Phalle is certain that tarot cards convey ancient wisdom and that it is useful to reflect on their teachings. In this sense, the Tarot Garden, with its sculptures, offers the opportunity to come closer with elements of Egyptian philosophy. That's why we are now trying to clarify the esoteric value of each card and to explain how the artist expressed it by means of the sculptures. The first tarot card is the Magician. It is a very positive card which symbolizes the ability to act favorably. That's why this card was presented as a big face together with a hand, the body part that creates a something. Moreover, the Magician was put upon another sculpture to emphasize that active and creative people in life always dominate. The second tarot card is the High Priestess and symbolizes femininity and her fertility. The sculpture is, as already indicated, below the Magician. It was portrayed as a face with a large mouth from which water is springing as a sign of fertility. The third tarot card is the Empress, which unites many positive aspects: intelligence, prosperity, and pragmatism. Here, the Empress was portrayed as a sphinx, which is the largest and most striking of all the sculptures in this garden. In her interior, an apartment was set up in which the artist actually has lived. It is a place where intelligence and creativity have provided to all the practical needs of life. The fourth tarot card is the Emperor. It is the card of masculinity. It symbolizes authority, security, generosity, and worldly power. The sculpture dedicated to this card is a castle with thick walls where you can walk on for sighting the environment. In the interior of the castle there is a colonnade, and in the middle there is a special fountain. The Hierophant is a card that symbolizes kindness and understanding, but also rituals in general. Here the Hierophant was portrayed as a big face crowned by two figures performing a ritual. The Cart of Lovers is portrayed by Adam and Eve because they are the first couple of lovers in the human race. Here they are having a picnic. The next card is the Chariot, meaning the triumph avenger. It stands for perfect success, honor and financial expansion. Here the card is represented by a carriage drawn by a black and by a golden horse. The sculpture is reminiscent of the quadrigos of the triumphal arches. The eighth card is that of Justice. The sculpture shows a woman holding a Libra. Inside the sculpture there is a squeaky machine symbolizing injustice and locked by a large lock. The Hermit is the card of the grouchy man who isolates himself from others. He is careful and always tries to protect himself. Here he was represented by a rather inconspicuous sculpture with a suffering face and a big heart. The following card is the Wheel of Fortune. It promises happiness and the solution of problems. The metal sculpture stands in the small pond and turns thanks to the water that comes out of the mouth of the High Priestess. The next card is the Strength, which is represented by a wild dragon tamed by a woman leading him on an invisible leash. The Hanged Man is the card of atonement and repentance, so it stands for the price you have to pay. Here the figure was hung upside down. All this within the Tree of Life, whose branches are made of snakes, and on whose trunk was portrayed the love story between Niki de Saint-Phalle and Jean Tanglais. Death is a very positive card that promises the end of a period of life and, as a result, promises a complete renewal. It is represented by a woman on a horse with a scythe in her hand. Around you can see cut parts of human body, dead babies and dead animals. The next card is the Temperance, which is represented by a small temple. Inside there are exposed the photos of Ricardo Menor and Jean Tanglais, the photos of two artists who died prematurely. On the top of this temple an angel was set up, the so-called Angel of Temperance. The artist gave this interpretation to the virtue because she herself was very spirited and could hardly force herself into moderation. However, the tarot garden was created only because she always made compromises between her ideas and the reality. The Devil's card represents evil and immorality. Here the devil was portrayed as a figure who is obviously transsexual, with two breasts, wide hips and a threefold penis. The Tower represents a material or intellectual construction that has no basis and will therefore collapse. It is the card of terrible defeat and disaster. Here it is portrayed as the Tower of Babel, which was struck by a flash of lightning for destroying it. The star symbolizes prosperity and passive luck, that is, things that you get without own effort. Here the star is symbolized by a well-fed woman who is dancing in a pond and pouring water in it with 2 vases. The moon is the card of fantasy and negative illusion. It stands for hidden danger, for a bad influence from outside, and for passivity. This card was represented by a sculpture that stands apart, as if it doesn't participate. The face has the shape of a moon and looks dreamingly into the sky, without becoming active. The card of the sun predicts prosperity, health and happiness. It's a completely positive card because the sun makes everything grow. Here it was represented by a bird because the bird is the animal that approaches the sun most. The Judgement card symbolizes rebirth, possibly through promotion or unexpected news. Here, this card is represented by a small mosaic with 3 figures rising from a tomb and a big angel playing a wind instrument. The World is the card of triumph and reward for accomplished achievement. Here the card is represented by a well-fed woman in a triumphant position over a globe wrapped in a serpent. The sculpture is located above a metal structure that should rotate. The Fool is the card number 0 because it doesn't belong to the Major Arcana and it is used as a joker. The Fool symbolizes the man in search of something new. He also stands for the unpredictability of fate and for irrational actions. Here the Fool is represented by a hurried hiker with a stick and small backpack. The Prophet is not a card of the tarot game, but nevertheless in this garden a sculpture was dedicated to him because the Prophet is the one who predicts the future. He was portrayed as a ghostly figure which was completely decorated outside by mirror fragments. The sculpture is hollow inside and the visitor can enter into it because the Prophet predicts the future by looking into himself. Even the Oracle is not a card of the tarot game, but a sculpture was erected to it because the Oracle is a being who can give wise advices. The Oracle was portrayed as a figure wrapped in a serpent, which symbolizes rebirth and great wisdom. Normally, during a tour in the tarot garden, every visitor develops a special predilection for one of the sculptures. Therefore, it is advisable to check the esoteric meaning of the sculpture because it might be helpful to better understand the situation that you are currently living. For further information, we recommend the additional video by Alzavola, Art Guide Through the Tarot Garden. Here you will find explanations to the history of the tarot garden, the artistic style of the sculptures, as well as informations about the several artists who worked in this park.